Story 1. I've been in the Air Force for almost 15 years now. I've done 4 tours overseas, missed countless birthdays and holidays with my family, and honestly, I've seen some pretty wild stuff in my time. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened at the airport last week. I was heading back to base after a 2-week leave visiting my parents. It was a much-needed break, but duty called, and I had to get back. My flight was scheduled for 2:30 p.m., and I arrived at the airport around noon, dressed in my uniform since I'd be reporting directly to base after landing. After getting through security, I grabbed a quick lunch and headed to my gate about an hour before boarding. The waiting area was already filling up, but I found a seat near the charging station to juice up my phone for the 3-hour flight ahead. The gate agent called for pre-boarding about 40 minutes before departure, first for passengers needing special assistance, then for active military personnel, that's me. I gathered my carry-on and headed to the gate, my boarding pass ready on my phone. That's when I heard her. "Excuse me, excuse me." I turned around to see a woman probably in her mid-40s with a teenager who looked about 16 standing beside her. The woman was storming toward the gate agent, practically dragging her daughter by the arm. The gate agent looked up with that practiced customer service smile. "Yes, ma'am? How can I help you today?" The woman pointed at me as I was about to hand over my boarding pass. "Why is he getting to board before us? We've been waiting here for over an hour." The gate agent explained calmly, "We're currently boarding passengers requiring assistance and active military personnel, ma'am. General boarding will begin in just a few minutes." I tried to be polite and just stepped to the side, figuring this would blow over quickly. I was wrong. The woman's face turned an alarming shade of red. "This is ridiculous. My daughter and I need to sit together, and she needs a window seat. She gets motion sickness." The gate agent typed something into her computer. "Let me check on your seats, ma'am. What's your name?" The woman gave her name, and the gate agent nodded. "Yes, I see your reservation here. You and your daughter are seated together in row 17, seats B and C." "Those aren't window seats," the woman practically shouted. "I told you, my daughter needs a window seat." The gate agent's smile was starting to look strained. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the flight is completely full today. All window seats have been assigned." That's when the woman turned to me again. "Well, can't you just bump him? Why does he get special treatment anyway?" The gate agent looked horrified. "Ma'am, we don't bump passengers, especially not our military personnel. They board early as a courtesy for their service." The teenager was looking mortified, staring at the floor and mumbling, "Mom, it's fine. I don't need a window seat." But her mother wasn't having it. "No, this is unacceptable. I paid good money for these tickets, and my daughter deserves a window seat." She turned to me directly. "You should give up your seat for my daughter. It's the right thing to do." I was stunned. "Ma'am, I'm not even sure I have a window seat, and I really need to get back to base." "Oh, so you think you're more important than my daughter?" She cut me off. "Just because you wear that uniform doesn't make you special." Several people in the waiting area gasped. I felt my face getting hot with embarrassment, not knowing how to respond without making the situation worse. The gate agent intervened. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. If you continue to disrupt the boarding process, I'll have to call security." That's when things went from bad to absolutely insane. The woman suddenly clutched her chest and fell dramatically into a nearby chair. "I can't breathe," she wailed, fanning herself frantically. "I'm having a panic attack. Stop the boarding. I need medical attention." Her daughter looked horrified. "Mom, what are you doing?" she whispered urgently. The gate agent immediately picked up her phone, likely calling for medical assistance. Other passengers were looking concerned, and a couple of people asked if they could help. The woman continued her performance, gasping and moaning while shooting pointed looks at the gate agent. "This is your fault," she managed to say between exaggerated breaths. The stress of being treated so poorly. Within minutes, airport paramedics arrived with their equipment. They rushed over to the woman, who was still putting on quite a show. One of the paramedics, "Ma'am, can you tell me what symptoms you're experiencing?" The woman, "Can't breathe, chest pain, all because they won't give my daughter a window seat." The paramedics exchanged glances. One of them took her pulse while the other checked her blood pressure. The first paramedic, "Your vitals seem normal, ma'am. Are you currently on any medication?" The woman, "Don't you understand? I'm having a panic attack. You need to stop the boarding process." By this point, almost everyone at the gate had realized what was happening. The teenager looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Teenager, "Mom, please stop. This is embarrassing." Woman, "Be quiet. I'm doing this for you." The paramedic, who had been checking her vitals, stood up straight. "Ma'am, I've been treating panic attacks for 15 years. You're not having one." The woman seemed shocked that her act wasn't working. "How dare you? I know my own body." That's when the second paramedic leaned in and said something quietly to her that I couldn't hear. Whatever it was, it made her face go pale. Meanwhile, the gate agent had been on the phone, and now airport security was approaching. The gate agent addressed the waiting passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. We'll resume boarding momentarily." The security officers reached our gate and spoke briefly with the gate agent before approaching the woman, who was suddenly looking much better. Security officer, "Ma'am, we need you to come with us, please." Woman, "Why? I'm feeling better now. We can board the plane." Security officer, "That's not an option anymore, ma'am. The airline has made the decision to deny you boarding for this flight due to disruptive behavior." The woman jumped to her feet, all signs of her medical emergency completely gone. "What? You can't do that. We have tickets. We paid for those seats." Security officer, "Ma'am, the airline reserves the right to deny boarding to any passenger who disrupts operations or makes other passengers uncomfortable. The gate agent has already arranged for your refund." The woman looked like she might explode. "This is discrimination. I'll sue this entire airport." The security officer remained calm. "You're welcome to contact the airline's customer service department with your complaints. Right now, I need you to come with us." Woman, "I'm not going anywhere. I demand to speak to a manager." The security officer exchanged glances with his colleague. "Ma'am, you can either come with us willingly, or we can escort you out. Your choice." The teenager was in tears by now. "Mom, please, let's just go. Everyone is staring." The woman looked around, finally seeming to realize that every single person at the gate was watching this spectacle. Some had their phones out, probably recording. Woman, "Fine, but this isn't over." As security began escorting them away, the gate agent called after them. "Ma'am, I should also inform you that you've been placed on our no-fly list. You will not be permitted to book with this airline in the future." The woman started screaming obscenities that I won't repeat here. The security officers quickened their pace, and soon they were gone. The gate agent returned to her microphone. "We apologize for the delay, folks. We'll now resume boarding with our active military personnel." As I approached the gate again, several passengers applauded, which was both nice and extremely awkward. The gate agent checked my boarding pass and gave me a tired smile. Gate agent, "Thank you for your service, sir, and sorry about all that." I nodded my thanks and headed down the jetway, thinking about how some people can make such a scene over something so small. As it turned out, I did have a window seat 14A, and the flight took off only 15 minutes behind schedule. The most surprising part? When we landed, I got a text from my mom with a link to a video entitled "Mom Fakes Medical Emergency for Window Seat, Gets Banned from Airline." It already had over 50,000 views. Guess someone's bad behavior made them internet famous for all the wrong reasons. Story 2. I've been teaching 5th grade at Oakwood Elementary for over 15 years now. I love my job. Watching kids learn and grow is incredibly rewarding. But dealing with certain parents, that's the part they don't prepare you for in teaching college. I come from a family of educators. My mother taught high school English for 30 years, and my father was a middle school principal. Growing up, I heard all their stories about difficult students and challenging parents, but I always thought they were exaggerating for dramatic effect. Boy, was I wrong. Last year, I had a particularly bright group of students. They were enthusiastic, creative, and mostly well-behaved. One of my students, I'll call him the Sun, was a quiet, sweet kid who did his work and got along with everyone. He wasn't a troublemaker at all, which made what happened even more surprising. The Sun's mother, however, was another story entirely. From day one, she made it clear she thought her child was exceptional and deserved special treatment. The first red flag appeared during the first week of school when she emailed me demanding to know why her son wasn't seated at the front of the class despite having perfect vision. I politely explained our seating chart rotated monthly to give everyone different perspectives, but she wasn't satisfied. Throughout the fall, I received emails about everything: why the son didn't get picked first for kickball, why he didn't get the biggest piece of cake at our Halloween party, why another student's science project got displayed in the hallway instead of his. Each time, I responded professionally, explaining that I treated all students fairly and with respect. Our class held elections for class president in November. It was a completely voluntary process. Students who wanted to run had to prepare a short speech and present their ideas to the class. Several students were excited about it, but the Sun never expressed any interest in running. On election day, 4 students gave their speeches, and the class voted. A really enthusiastic girl who had great ideas about organizing more field trips won by a landslide. I thought that was that until parent-teacher night in December. I was sitting at my desk, having just finished a pleasant meeting with a couple about their daughter's reading progress, when the classroom door flew open with such force it hit the wall. The Sun's mom, where is the principal? I need to speak to whoever's in charge immediately. Me, good evening. I'm the Sun's teacher. Is everything okay? The Sun's mom, no, everything is not okay. This is discrimination. My son should have been made class president. I was completely taken aback. The Sun had never even mentioned wanting to be class president, let alone submitted his name for consideration. Me, I'm sorry, but the Sun didn't run for class president. He never signed up or prepared a speech. The Sun's mom, and why would that matter? He's clearly the best choice. His father is a business executive and leadership runs in his blood. This is emotional sabotage. By this point, other parents waiting for their appointments were staring. The principal, who had heard the commotion from down the hall, appeared at the doorway. Principal, is there a problem here? The Sun's mom, yes, there certainly is. My son has been denied his rightful position as class president, and I'm going to sue this entire school district for discrimination and emotional sabotage. The principal, who has dealt with her fair share of angry parents over the years, remained remarkably calm. Principal, ma'am, why don't we continue this discussion in my office? The Sun's mom, fine, but I'm warning you, my husband's cousin is a lawyer, and we won't hesitate to take legal action. She stormed out, following the principal. The other parents and I exchanged awkward glances, and I apologized for the disruption before continuing with the scheduled meetings. I was mortified but tried to maintain my composure. About 45 minutes later, the principal came back to check on me. Principal, can you come to my office when you're done here? We need to discuss what just happened. After finishing my last parent meeting, I went to the principal's office. The Sun's mom was gone, but the principal looked exhausted. Principal, so that was interesting. Me, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she would react that way about the class president thing. The Sun never even mentioned wanting to run. Principal, this isn't your fault. While she was in my office, I pulled up her file in our system. Did you know this is her pattern at every school the Sun has attended? Me? No, I had no idea. Principal, she's made complaints about every teacher the son has had since kindergarten. I called the principal at his previous school, and they dealt with similar issues. At his last school, she demanded he be made the lead in the school play despite not auditioning. Before that, she insisted he be made team captain for soccer, even though he rarely attended practice. I was shocked, but also relieved that this wasn't something I had caused. Principal, I did some more digging while she was threatening to call her lawyer. She's been harassing school staff for years. 3 different schools in 5 years, all with the same pattern. None of her threats ever amounted to anything legal. Me, what happens now? Principal, well, I informed her that since she's threatened legal action, all further communication must go through our district's legal department. And based on her behavior tonight and her history, she's been temporarily banned from school grounds, except for scheduled appointments with administrators present. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. In 15 years of teaching, I'd never had a parent banned from school grounds. Principal, also, I think it's best if we move the son to Mrs. Johnson's class after winter break. Not as punishment, he's a good kid, but to give him a fresh start away from this situation. I agreed it was probably for the best, though I would miss having the son in my class. He really was a sweet kid. The next day, the son was quiet during class, but at recess, he approached me. The son, my mom said I'm changing classes after break. Me, yes, you'll be in Mrs. Johnson's class. She's a wonderful teacher. I've heard you're quite interested in science, and she does amazing science projects. The son, my mom was really mad last night. She says the school is being unfair to me. Me, how do you feel about it? He looked down at his shoes for a moment before answering. The son, I never wanted to be class president. I don't like talking in front of everyone. I just want to read my books and work on my projects. In that moment, my heart broke a little for this child who seemed to understand his mother's behavior better than she did. Me, it's okay to feel that way. Everyone has different things they enjoy and are good at. The son, my mom always wants me to be the leader and the best at everything. At my old school, she made them put me in advanced math, even though I'm not very good at math. I was always confused and falling behind. Me, well, you're excellent at writing and science. Everyone has their own strengths. The son, do you think Mrs. Johnson will be mad at me because of my mom? Me, absolutely not. Mrs. Johnson is excited to have you in her class, and this is a fresh start. He nodded and went off to join some other kids. After winter break, the son moved to Mrs. Johnson's class. I would see him in the hallways, and he seemed happier and more relaxed. Mrs. Johnson told me he was flourishing in her classroom, particularly in their science projects. As for the son's mom, she made a few more threats via email to the district office, but never followed through with any legal action. She was eventually allowed back on school grounds, but had to be accompanied by school security during any visits. The most satisfying part. At the end of the year assembly, the son received a special award for Most Improved in Science for his incredible weather station project. His mom wasn't there, she had a scheduling conflict, but his dad came and beamed with pride. I overheard him telling the son, "I'm proud of you for doing what you love, buddy." Sometimes the best comeuppance isn't some dramatic showdown, but seeing a child begin to find their own path despite a parent trying to force them down another. Story 3. I never thought I'd become internet famous because of my farmer's market stall, but life is full of surprises. 3 years ago, I quit my office job to follow my passion for baking. The corporate world had drained my soul for too long, and I couldn't take another day of fluorescent lighting and passive-aggressive emails. My grandmother had taught me how to bake when I was just a kid. We spent countless weekends mixing dough and decorating cookies. When she passed away, she left me her recipe book filled with handwritten notes and family secrets. Those recipes became my escape during stressful work weeks, and eventually my ticket to freedom. Starting a small bakery business wasn't easy. I converted half my apartment into a baking space, woke up at 4 a.m. to prepare fresh goods, and spent my weekends at the local farmer's market. The first few months were tough, barely breaking even, questioning my decision, and missing the security of a regular paycheck. But slowly, I built a loyal customer base who appreciated my traditional recipes with modern twists. That's how I ended up with a regular stall at the Sunday farmer's market downtown. My neighbors were other small business owners, the fruit lady who grew everything herself on a small farm outside town, the cheese guy who made the most amazing goat cheese, and the coffee roaster whose espresso kept us all functioning during the early morning setup. We formed a tight community, helping each other out and watching each other's stalls during bathroom breaks. That's why when the incident happened, it wasn't just about me, it was about all of us. It was a busy Sunday morning in early summer. The market was packed with people enjoying the perfect weather, and my cinnamon rolls had already sold out. I was rearranging my display of lemon bars when I noticed her. A woman in her mid-40s with an expensive-looking handbag and oversized sunglasses was moving systematically from stall to stall. At first, I didn't think much of it, just another customer browsing around. But then I noticed something odd. She wasn't just looking, she was eating. A lot. At the fruit stall, she picked up a strawberry and popped it in her mouth. Then another, and another. The fruit lady was busy with other customers and didn't notice. The woman then moved to the cheese stall, sampling multiple pieces without buying anything. By the time she reached my stall, she had a small basket filled with various items from around the market, none of which seemed to be paid for. I watched as she approached my display of mini fruit tarts. Me, hi there. Can I help you find something specific today? She barely glanced at me, picking up one of my apple turnovers. Woman, I need to try this. Quality check. She took a big bite before I could respond, then made an exaggerated thinking face. Woman, not bad. The cinnamon is a bit overpowering though. Let me try something else. I stood there shocked as she reached for a lemon bar. Me, excuse me, but those aren't free samples. If you'd like to try something, I can cut you a small piece, but… Woman, don't you know who I am? I run a very influential food blog. I'm doing you a favor by featuring your products. She said this loudly enough that a few nearby customers turned to look. I felt my face getting hot. Me, I'm sorry, but I don't give away full-sized items as samples, even for reviews. Each item represents my time, ingredients, and… Woman, whatever. I'm quality inspecting for my followers. They trust my opinion on where to spend their money. She took a bite of the lemon bar, then made a face. Woman, too sour. You should really adjust your recipe. By this point, I noticed my neighboring vendors watching the interaction. The fruit lady had realized what was happening and was checking her display with a frown. Me, you need to pay for those items you've been collecting from all the stalls. The woman looked at her basket as if surprised it was there. Woman, they're just samples. Everyone knows food bloggers get free samples. It's how this works. Free advertising. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Me, that's not how the farmer's market works. We're all small business owners here. Those aren't sample sizes you're taking. She rolled her eyes dramatically and reached for another one of my cookies. That's when I gently placed my hand over my display case. Me, please don't touch anything else unless you intend to purchase it. Woman, how dare you? Do you know how many followers I have? I can make or break businesses like yours with one post. The people around us had grown quiet, watching the scene unfold. I noticed the coffee vendor a few stalls down had his phone out, pointed in our direction. Me, I'd be happy to set up a proper tasting sometime for your blog. But right now, you need to pay for what you've already taken from me and the other vendors. Woman, this is ridiculous. I'm doing you all a favor. My followers are always looking for new places to try. The fruit lady had come over now, standing beside me. Fruit lady, you took almost a pound of my premium berries. That's $15. Woman, They were samples, for my blog, Cheese Guy, and about $20 worth of artisanal cheese from my stall. The woman looked around, suddenly realizing she was surrounded by unhappy vendors and curious onlookers. Market manager, what seems to be the problem here? I hadn't noticed the market manager approaching. He was a retired teacher who volunteered to organize the market and keep things running smoothly. Me. This customer has been taking items from multiple vendors, claiming they're free samples for her food blog. The woman straightened her posture, switching to a more professional tone. Woman, I'm a food blogger with a significant following. I was sampling items to feature in my upcoming post about this market. Market manager, do you have a business card? Which blog do you write for? The woman fumbled in her purse. Woman, I seem to have left my cards at home, but my blog is called Taste of the City. Very exclusive. Invitation-only readership. The coffee vendor had walked over now, still holding his phone. Coffee vendor. Funny, I can't find any food blog with that name, but I did get your whole sampling spree on video. Been filming for my business TikTok account. Already got 200 views in the last 5 minutes. He turned his phone around, showing a live TikTok stream with comments rapidly appearing. The woman's face went pale, then quickly turned red. Woman, you can't film me without permission. That's illegal. Market manager, actually, this is a public space. Now, you have 2 options. Pay for everything you've taken, or I call the police for theft. The woman looked around, seeming to finally realize the situation she was in. Without another word, she dug into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Woman, fine, but none of you will be featured in my blog now. She slapped down some cash on my table, enough to cover what she'd taken from all of us, though barely. Then she stormed off, leaving her half-eaten samples behind. We all looked at each other, then burst into laughter once she was out of earshot. Coffee vendor, guys, this video is blowing up. Over 1,000 views now. By the next day, the video had over 1 million views. People started calling her Farmers Market Karen, and the incident became a local legend. Even better, supporters started showing up specifically to visit the stalls that had been targeted. The following Sunday, the woman tried to return, wearing a hat and different sunglasses as a disguise. But the market manager spotted her immediately. Market manager, I'm sorry, but after last week's incident, you're no longer welcome at this market. Woman, this is outrageous. You can't ban me. Market manager, I absolutely can. We have a zero-tolerance policy for theft. Several people nearby recognized her from the viral video and started taking pictures. Realizing she was making things worse for herself, she turned and left. My little bakery stall got so much business from the incident that I was able to rent a small commercial kitchen space the following month. Sometimes I wonder if I should send her a thank you note, but I think knowing her free samples scheme cost her access to the best farmers market in town is satisfaction enough. Story 4. My husband and I moved to Sycamore Heights 2 years ago when I was 7 months pregnant with our daughter. We chose this community specifically because it had a playground, good schools nearby, and seemed family-friendly. The homeowners association fees were steep, but we figured it was worth it for the well-maintained common areas and community pool. Everything was great for the first year and a half. Our daughter grew from a tiny baby to an energetic toddler who loved being outside. We'd take her to the playground every evening after I got home from work, usually around 5 p.m. She'd play with the other neighborhood kids while I chatted with other parents. It was the highlight of our day. That all changed 3 months ago when the annual Homeowners Association Board elections happened. I couldn't attend the meeting because our daughter had an ear infection, but my husband went. He came home looking worried. Husband, you're not going to believe who got elected to the board. Me, who? Husband, that woman from the end of the street. The one with the perfectly manicured lawn who yelled at the Richardson twins for riding their bikes on her sidewalk. I immediately knew who he meant. She lived in the largest house in the development and drove a luxury SUV with a personalized license plate. I'd had exactly one interaction with her before, when she complained that our garbage can was visible from the street on collection day. According to her, we were supposed to wheel it out at 5 a.m. and put it away the second the garbage truck left, not when we got home from work. Husband, she got elected because hardly anyone showed up to vote, and she brought like 5 of her friends. Me, well, how bad could it be? The board has 5 members, right? She's just 1 vote. I was so wrong. Within a week of taking office, she sent out an email to all homeowners announcing important new community standards. The email was signed by the entire board, but the writing style was unmistakably hers, lots of all caps and exclamation points. But one rule in particular caught my eye. Effective immediately, no children under 12 allowed in common areas after 4 p.m. This includes sidewalks, playgrounds, and grassy areas. Noise pollution is disturbing peaceful enjoyment of property. I immediately called the Homeowners Association president, a retired man who'd been on the board for years. Me, is this for real? You can't ban children from using the playground. President, I know it's inconvenient, but she made a compelling case about noise complaints. Several homeowners have apparently filed complaints. Me, that's impossible. Most of the families in this neighborhood have kids. Who's complaining? President, I'm not at liberty to say, but the vote was unanimous. Later, I found out she had scheduled the vote when 2 board members were on vacation and convinced the president that their proxy votes counted. Classic manipulation. I organized an email campaign with other parents, but we got nowhere. The president just kept repeating the same lines about peaceful enjoyment and property values. But it got worse. A week later, I was pushing my daughter in her stroller down the sidewalk at 4:30 p.m., heading to my friend's house at the other end of the neighborhood. Suddenly, motion-activated sprinklers erupted from the grass verge, completely soaking us and my daughter's stroller. My phone was in the stroller cup holder and got drenched. As I stood there in shock, a car slowed down next to us. The window rolled down, and there she was, smiling smugly. Karen, oops, didn't you see the notice? No children allowed in common areas after 4 p.m. Those sprinklers are to keep the deer away, and other pests. She drove off before I could respond. I was livid. My daughter was crying, my phone was ruined, and the stroller's electronic panel was blinking weird error codes. When I got home and told my husband what happened, he immediately went to check out the sprinklers. They weren't standard irrigation, they were high-powered motion-activated ones, clearly installed to target people, not animals, and they were only installed along the sidewalks near the playground and in front of houses where families with young children lived. We weren't the only ones who'd been soaked. Over the next few days, I heard from 5 other parents who'd had similar experiences. One mom's insulin pump had been damaged. Another's laptop in a backpack was ruined. I'm not a confrontational person, but this had gone too far. I did some research and discovered that the sprinkler installation hadn't been approved by the city, and targeting children specifically could be considered discriminatory under fair housing laws. I sent a carefully worded email to the entire board. My daughter's stroller was damaged by the unauthorized sprinkler system, costing $450 to repair. My phone was also damaged, costing $200. I expect reimbursement within 7 days, or I will be forced to take legal action against both the Homeowners Association and board members individually. I've consulted with an attorney who specializes in housing discrimination. The president called me immediately. President, now, there's no need for lawyers. The sprinklers were just installed to help with landscape maintenance. At exactly 4 p.m., only targeting sidewalks where children walk. That's not landscaping, that's harassment. And I've already filed a complaint with the city about the unpermitted water fixtures. There was a long pause. President, what exactly do you want? Remove the sprinklers, reverse the rule about children in common areas, and reimburse everyone whose property was damaged. President, I'll have to consult with the board. Me, you have 48 hours before I file the lawsuit and contact the local news. The next day, I received another call. The president sounded nervous. President, we've scheduled an emergency board meeting for tonight. You should attend. I arrived to find the community center packed with residents. At least 30 families with children were there, many of whom I'd never met before. The president called the meeting to order, and to my surprise, announced that the first agenda item was a motion to remove Karen from the board. Karen, this is outrageous. I've done nothing but try to maintain standards in this community. The noise from those children is unbearable. My property values are at stake. A woman I didn't know stood up. Woman, my son is autistic, and your sprinklers triggered a meltdown that took hours to resolve. I've filed a complaint with the Department of Housing citing disability discrimination. Another resident stood up. Man, I've lived here for 15 years, and we've never had issues with children playing. What we don't need are vigilante board members installing unauthorized water systems that damage property. Karen, those sprinklers were for landscape maintenance. It's not my fault people were walking by at the wrong time. The city inspector I'd contacted stood up then. Inspector, ma'am, I inspected those sprinklers yesterday. They were connected to a motion sensor and timer set for exactly 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's not landscape maintenance. That's deliberate targeting, and it's a code violation. The vote was overwhelming. 47-6, with the 6 being Karen and her friends. She was removed from the board immediately. The president, looking chastened, then proposed reversing all rules implemented in the last 3 months and establishing a committee to review board procedures. Karen stormed out, shouting about lawsuits and property values. 2 days later, a moving truck appeared at her house. Apparently, she couldn't bear to live in a neighborhood where children were allowed to play outside. The Homeowners Association not only reimbursed everyone for damages, but also used association funds to install new playground equipment. The new board implemented a rule requiring at least 51% of homeowners to vote for any new restrictions on common area usage. As for me, I decided to run for the board in the next election. Someone needs to make sure our community stays family-friendly, and I've discovered I'm pretty good at standing up to entitled people who think the rules don't apply to them. My daughter now has plenty of friends to play with at the playground, and we all enjoy the sound of children laughing at any time of day.